this session. Once again, the UV stuffs, they are already arrived here. Yesterday demonstration with the indigenous one and probably the DZI product. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the UV stuffs, how it's useful for collecting geospatial data in the developing countries, where the GIS and remote sensing, I mean the spatial data is scarce, and especially with the quality and the resolution, both in temporal and spatial aspect. So I'm going to talk about this one. So drone is not always like bombing the things from the sky. It's sometimes not. Nowadays it's many times. It's useful in civilian purposes. So we have got the presentation from that team yesterday and got I think it's almost very detailed level of descriptions regarding the drone. So let's get to my study. It was like a study area where the water bodies is a narrow channel was eaten up by the people, like the encroachment. The person was talking this morning. It was wide river and encroached, and it come to the from 800 meter to the now 200 meter only. But this was within the urban areas, and it was not only 100 meters, it was quite narrow. So say for example 10-15 meters, and both sides encroachment were happening, and then they were disappearing, and it was very difficult to identify the channels, narrow channels in the urban areas when the physical survey was done. Then we tried with this UAV, and it was made in Bangladesh with some of the encourageous guys. We worked in a team and found very interesting results. I'm going to share that one. The first phase was like the selection of the UAVs, because they didn't made it by themselves, but procure the different parts from different sources and then make and assemble so that it can be worked in Bangladesh. And selection of the study area. Then we make the flight path. It was approximately 2 kilometer corridor. So we made an overlap like 80% forward and 70% side overlap. And then did the image collections procedures, make the field survey, and then processing with different softwares. So that was the, I think, yeah, this is the similar thing like on the back. And it was made in Bangladesh, collecting the different parts from different part of the, I think from different sources, some from China, some from America, maybe some from Germany. So all together coming Bangladesh and making our operations. And this was the center part, and this was the narrow channel that was eaten up, or it was completely difficult to identify from the satellite images. So even it was very difficult in social aspect, because the people who encroached the land, they did not allow to go for the physical service. It was a direct conflict. So it was another interesting issue for using this UAV techniques. Because one from here, we flown this one, go and come back this way, come back this way and come back. So only one access was needed, and we were escorted with the defense people so that we were not harmed by the local encroachment people. So after getting the data from the UV, so we use only the action camera. It was not the photogrammetric great camera. It was GoPro 3. So we got around 500 photos and tried with different softwares. And like this photogrammetric processing, so we did the pre-processing a little bit with different softwares like Pix4D, and we got the license for 1 week, and then tried to process these things. And with the Correlator 3D, it's a Canadian software, and then AZSoft, which produced very good and impressive 3D model of that city straight from the UV photos. So we'll see that one. So this is in 3D flight path, and then this is the actual photographs taken as the lens was is fisheye type. I mean, it's a wide angle lens of the GoPro camera, so it's leaning outward and not looking good. But the software can handle this one. So we tried to produce the product from DSM, including the man-made structures. And the footprint, the red ones are the higher buildings, maybe for 5 story, 6 story building, and the green one and then yellow ones are having the lower elevations in the urban settings. And SIM-Active have got the interesting feature of creating the DTM, I mean excluding the DSM or man-made structures from the DTM and make the actual DTM of that. So they use some sort of algorithms over there. We can make the hillshades of the same area. Here we can see the depth is a lowland. I mean it's a water body or pond. So it's actually representing the lower elevations in the same area. So these are the some outputs from the exercise, which makes us very interesting to go further in this study. And the most interesting part is that, so using the AZSoft, we tried to make the 3D model of that one. It took a little bit longer time, and computing power also was needed quite high with a good capacity computer. And it produces very nice. We started from here. Here are some dots. These are the some people who are engaged with flight. And then these are very narrow. It's a 5-inch wall. So it's also found. And here you see as a very tiny dot. It's a heap of the soil. As a, some soil is got together to make a little uplift here. So it's also identified in the digital elevation model, I mean in the real 3D models. So as the flight path was like this way, if we go back to that photo, here is the actual photographs. Here we are standing to make the nations, and these are the buildings and outside. So if we come back to the photo, it's giving the almost very clear picture of this one. And from this one, we can make the cloud point cloud that can be useful in engineering measurements or any decision level information. So this makes us very happy to get the 3D model from this one. And so comparing with the other results and other methods, I have made some tables discussing with other experts in our country. So I'd like to share it with you. So for example, if we go for the UV method, so nowadays this has been changed to 30 centimeter in World War 3, but when we made the presentations it was 60 centimeter, the highest resolution it could get from the satellite. And it made the cloud coverage very difficult to get the data if you use the optical sensor data. So it's roughly workable, but when we go for the UV with the LiDAR or RGB camera, it can go up to the 1.3 centimeter or 2 centimeter resolution, so it's quite higher. So if you go for the satellite data, so the cost is recurring. If you get the images of a month and then you want another image for the next month, you have to pay the same amount almost. So it's a recurring cost. But the UV stuffs, once you buy the UV and the sensor and the software, is a one-time capital investment. So it can be reused for many projects. And in the country like us, there are dense canopy and dense vegetations. So there are habitations, there are other features under the tree. So if you use the satellite data, you cannot see down the trees. So it always needs the ground verification, so you have to go there. You cannot completely rely on the remote sensing data. But if you use the UV, since it's giving the 2 centimeter or 5 centimeter resolutions, even in between the leaves, gaps of the leaves, you can find the features and you can make some way out and at least go close to the reality. So this is also interesting features. And this is in terms of, I think, I have made an assessment with some of my colleagues that if you want to do a survey with a traditional method like the total stations and GPS and other stuffs, so it can take 400 kilometers, maybe 10 days, 10 people. So 4 months for 10 people. So if you go for the same approach, same exercise with a photogrammetric approach, so you can buy the steady images and use the photogrammetric workstations, it may take less time. But if you go for the UV approach, as we are seeing that it can, with a half an hour flight, we can cover almost 2 square kilometers, depending on the flight and camera calibration and camera settings. So if you do the half square kilometer or 2 square kilometer in half an hour, so 1 hour we can cover 4 square kilometers. So in 5 hours in a day, we can cover 20 square kilometers. So 1 week we can, 1 week of data collection maximum, we can complete the assignment of 100 square kilometers, which is quite time saving. And it doesn't, yesterday we have seen that only 2 people can make the mission successful and get all the stuffs. The same people can get engaged in processing the data sets. And once you collect the data, the very night you can process the data, and the next morning you can go for the new acquisition, and this thing can go on. So you don't have to depend for waiting for the whole data to be collected for the processing. So this is, in short, very useful method. And in my opinion, and with some of my colleagues, that it can save, because it can save time. It gives the improved quality of the data, and it will engage the less amount of people in your exercise or in your field data collection. So it's safe in all directions. It saves in quality because it's giving the higher resolution. It reducing the number of resources engaged in the project, so it's also saving, and it's giving a very good quality of the data and less time. So in all direction, particularly business perspective, it's not for the nationwide scale, but if it is small project and medium project, this can be very fantastic to use the UAVs. So I think this is a very good one. And to be concluded, so this is one of the disruptive technology, and many of the people will be in agreement with me that this is growing very fast in geospatial technology, and it has a very good feature. And though there are some legislative constrictions or bindings in many of the countries. Yesterday we were talking with Professor Han that many of the UAVs are not allowed to operate beyond the line of sight or beyond the eyesight because of the safety issues. But there are some, the Delia Tech, I'll show some examples of the UAVs commercially, very good UAV websites. So like the French company Delia Tech, they are permitted to operate the line of sight, and in a single flight they can do the data collection for more than 2 hours. It's a fixed wing airplane, and aerial level, so I think got the permissions in Canada. So things are changing in positive ways, and this is one of the very good techniques for the small areas and medium areas and for temporal data. So I think in short, it's a good one to be accepted, to welcome for the geospatial community, other than the high altitude geostationary satellite and some solar orbit satellites. These are the things that the research communities, the professionals can utilize for their purpose and getting the reliable geospatial data in many aspects of the life. Professor Bear was telling that we need the rapid data collections. If you think of the airborne survey, it takes a lot of preparations, maybe 7 days, 5 days, but if you have the UAVs, you can take it with the 7 minutes getting into the site. So it's really a good techniques, and I do appreciate, I like this one. I think many of you will be agreed with me. So thank you once again. If you give me a couple of minutes, I can show you some of the websites providing the commercial UAV solutions and softwares. So if you have any questions. So let me show.
First, you would like to show
Some of the websites just for example, EV. So thank you for listening. So one second, I need to push the button maybe. So I'm out of time.
Input A.
I have some time, or I should just only one.
only one.
Only one. Only one is okay.
He's on the right foot. I don't know why he's on the right.
So I think better to let him to present. So if somebody is interested, I can show you the website and the commercial product that's our limited market in the UAVs. So I think we can talk in break again. So
Well, any questions, remarks, suggestions now? Yeah, yes, of course.
Lot.
Zahid, go ahead.
Hi, Zahid. Very interesting presentation, and I liked your matrices
Uh-huh.
comparing satellite and LiDAR. So, To clarify, your UAV was carrying a LiDAR? No.
It was by mistake. LiDAR was put there. We only use the RGB sensor.
So how did you created the point cloud?
Point cloud is with the AZSoft. Professor Han will be great because they can do the processing of the photos directly from the UAVs.
So you have stereo photos?
They generate the stereo photo inside the software, and it can automatically create the 3D models of the landscape, including the man-made structures, and from that 3D model it can generate the point clouds.
So your UAV had only RGB camera?
Sensor. It was GoPro 3.
I mean, I have a comment that this comparison with the satellite data, I did not understand why you are saying UAV is not recurrent. Of course, if you want to see the changes, it should be recurrent, right?
Maybe it's I've said that satellite data, if you go for the recurrent issues, so you have to spend the same amount of money, but the UAV is a one-time investment, so you can use it as many times as you, because it doesn't expire in single year or 2 years. So once you invest for the UAV software, the hardware and the camera, it can be used for multiple times. Professor. Very difficult question.
So could you say a few words about your flying height and this project area which you were flying? That was certainly not 100 square kilometers, I guess.
No, it's only 2 kilometers corridor. I think it's a 15 meter apart, and then flying height was 100 meters, 300 feet. Because we made a reconnaissance that particular area, and we checked for the building that is not 20 story, and my UAV will get a hit over there.
Sure.
So we carefully check the flying height, and even there are restrictions in many of the countries. In my country also, it's not allowed to. That's why we took some defense people, the military people, to accompany us.
So the GoPro was a 5 megapixel camera?
No, it's a GoPro 3. It's a 12 megapixel camera.
A 12 megapixel camera. Okay. So because on the flying height which you had, I guess then the ground resolution was not so good anymore.
No, so it was around 7 to 10 centimeters.
Okay.
It was not that much.
Okay.
One thing I should disagree with you.
Okay, very nice. First disagreement. Well,
Conventional survey you wrote is take time and use money with that. But it's not average accuracy than UAV.
classical is always best, but the new we should welcome the new technologies. So that's why I made a little comparison with them. With due respect to the classical approaches, and they're always good, but there are some limitations, and that's why these are emerging. So these are technology that's being accepted by the professionals. So I think things will be better in future. So thank you once again for your time and patience.